everybody. Welcome to All or Nothing podcast. We are so happy to have you here today. Today, we are going to be talking about something very special to both Nicole and I. It is Mother Mary. If you are liking these podcasts, please write a review. Thank you so much for all those who have written a review for this podcast. It helps us, the algorithm, to push our videos out more. So thank you for all your support in that way. Let's get into it. This podcast I'm so excited about because honestly, we could probably talk, me and Nicole, for hours on end about Mother Mary and the impact she's had on our lives personally. She is the highest saint in the Catholic Church. She is sinless. And if she didn't say yes to God, there would be no other person. God was very intentional about asking Mother Mary, of all women, to be the mother of God. And so that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about. He was very intentional. Everything God does is very intentional. And so he chose Mother Mary because she was sinless. And she said yes. It was because of her yes to God that we can get to heaven. If she didn't say yes, we wouldn't have that opportunity. So it is a really amazing thing that I think a lot of people overlook, her yes to God. So there's a lot of different things that people accuse us of. One of them is we'll have statues of Mary and they'll say, stop worshiping these idols. You know, it says all over the Bible. And the truth is, we don't worship the statues of Mary. It's like a picture for us. If we have a picture of a family member and put it in a frame, it doesn't mean we're worshiping that family member. It's just that we love them and want to think of them often. For us as Catholics, we want to think of Mary's yes to God and how important that is. We want to be like Mary. We want to say yes to God in all things, even if they're hard, even if they don't make sense. We want to be like Mary in that way. She is the perfect example of loving God to the purest way possible. And so that's why, as Catholics, we hold her to such a high place because she is the perfect example to us. So a lot of people ask us, why do you worship Mary? Like, why do you pray to Mary? And the truth is, we're actually praying with Mary, if you think of it that way. In the Bible, it says, wherever two or more are gathered in my name, then there I am. So God wants us to pray in community. And the great thing is, we have Mary, we have St. Joseph, we have all these saints that if we are on a deserted island, we could ask them to pray with us, and we are praying as a community. So we are never alone in the Catholic faith. And I absolutely love that. A lot of people also say, yeah, but you're not supposed to talk to dead people, right? Like that's another thing a lot of Protestants say. But the truth is, the Bible also says that if you are dead and you go to heaven, then you're not truly dead. You are more alive in heaven than you are here on earth. So you're praying to people who are truly alive and can purely pray. And so it is actually the biggest gift to have all these saints and angels and, of course, Mother Mary, who are praying with us, because their goal for us is heaven as well. Their goal for us is to please God. And so I think that she is the ultimate goal of all of that. Every time that we're praying with Mary, we are honoring God because he gave her to us as a gift. He wants us to love his mother. What person would not want somebody to love their mother? Think about Jesus. He wants us to love his mother. He loves her so much. And so he wants us to love her as well. And so that's why we pray with her, because nobody knows Jesus human wise more than Mary. And so she has the purest prayer straight to Jesus's heart. What do you think, Nicole? What did I leave out?
No, you did awesome. That's a really great introduction. I think this can be a really hard barrier for people. Is a lot of people won't become Catholic because they don't understand. Mary is, God chose Mary as a vessel for Jesus. He didn't have to do that. Why did he choose a woman, and specifically Mary? Jesus could have just showed up in his big sandals and walked into a town, but he chose to come through her. So it's naturally we can go through her to Jesus. Now, in the Bible, it says that there's only one mediator, and that's God. And that is true. However, there's a difference between prayer and worship. A lot of times people think prayer and worship is the same, but they're actually separate things. Like we're praying to Mary. When we say that, what we mean is we're asking for their intercession. We know that only God is divine. She is not divine, but she was immaculately conceived. The only time in the Bible where God refers to someone as blessed is Mary, when the angel Gabriel came and said, "Blessed are you among women, and hail full of grace." There's no one else that was full of grace. If you could create your own mother, you would make her perfect too. God made her perfect. And that makes sense if you're carrying the Lord. If you're carrying God, then it makes sense that she would be perfect. So she was not divine, but she didn't have the original sin, the way that we all do from Adam and Eve. She was born without original sin. Around the year 500, people said, well, no, she's the mother of Jesus, but not mother of God. They tried to separate, but Jesus wasn't two people. He was divine and fully human, fully God. So you can't separate the divinity from the humanity. When he was conceived in the womb, he was God in the womb of Mary. So he wants us to honor her, as Heather was saying. I just feel so bad because there's so many people that really dismiss and hate Mary. They see it as though we're like Catholics worship her, so she needs to be put out of the way. But I just think that must really hurt his heart, to be honest with you. When you ask Mary for her prayers, she is not pointing to herself. She's always pointing to her son. And she never takes away anything from Jesus. She points to him. And in fact, the very first miracle, the wedding at Cana, she requests something on behalf of people who ran out of wine. And she asked him, and he said, "My time has not yet come." But guess what? He changed his mind because his mother asked. She always says, do it, just do whatever he tells you. She points to him, not to her. An analogy that I always think of is that if you have a son and he brings home a girlfriend, who knows the son better than the mom? No one. So it's like she brings out the baby books and she's like, oh, this is so and so when he was little. This is little Thomas when he's little. And you start to share. It doesn't become about the mom. It draws you closer to like, I didn't know that about him. So she just helps us to know who he is more as his mother. And the fact that he was born into a family, it didn't have to be that way. If people have problems with asking for intercession, then really, what do non-Catholics do when they need prayer? You ask people to intercede for you. So there's prayer lines. It's the same thing. We would never say, well, there's only one mediator. Don't ask these people to pray for you. Go straight to God. It's like, well, no, we know that there's power, like where two or three are gathered in their name, as Heather was saying, there am I in the midst. So we ask other people to pray, and we also go straight to people who are gazing upon his face, the saints and his holy mother. She is so good. She is so pure, and she teaches us how to love and how to suffer. If you know about the life of Christ, Mary was along the way of the cross, right? And she was at the foot of the cross, watching his flesh be ripped apart. Her son, think about the person you love the most. She watched that. And there was a prophecy back when at the temple, 8 days, because he was a practicing Jew, and he had to honor his father and mother too, by the way. He was told to honor her. And so we have to as well, because a servant can't be greater than its master. But 8 days when he was going to get circumcised, Simeon prophesied that Mary's heart would be pierced also. So this woman who is fully human, not divine, watching her son be torn apart, her Lord too, was just basically redeemed ahead because God is at a time. He took the original sin away from her. The grace of his resurrection was applied to her in advance. He is God. So we can't keep him in the box of things that always make sense. He redeemed his mother. That's her savior too. But it was just in advance. She didn't have original sin. So she's not dead. She's fully alive. She intercedes. She's a great mother to us. For those of you who want to find out, like, where's that in the Bible? There's a lot of things that are not specific words in the Bible with the translation, but it's implied. For example, the word Trinity is not in the Bible, but we know we believe in the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit as Trinity. It's implied. Mary is referred to in Revelation 12 that the Apostle John wrote as Queen of Heaven. The word queen isn't there, but talks about she had a crown and that she was the queen, and she would be the one that also stepped and crushed Satan's head with the weakest part of her body, the heel. That's why there's an attack on Mary. That's why there's an attack on women, is because Satan knows that she will crush his head. That's why I think there's division in different denominations over Mary. But I just wanted to say that, again, there was only one church until the 1500s, till Martin Luther split. Even Martin Luther loved the Blessed Mother and prayed the Rosary. A lot of people don't know that. He did. So again, we always honored her. And it wasn't until everyone started to branch off into their own churches that we got away from these things that were passed on to us. So I just wanted to start with that. Heather, what are your thoughts about that? And what else would you like to share about our Blessed Mother?
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I agree. It's such a beautiful gift. I feel bad for those who don't have a relationship with Mary and want to get closer to God, because it is the quickest way to getting to know her son, Jesus. And for me, like I love that they gave us the rosary as well. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, that's how you worship Mary, is through the rosary." But really, you are just saying what the Bible says.
The first book in Luke is the Hail Mary.
Exactly. So it is interesting, because how could praying the Bible be bad? I get a lot of people who say, "Where's that in the Bible? Where's the rosary in the Bible?" And I would like to say, where in the Bible does Jesus say to only listen to the Bible alone? Like, there's nowhere in the Bible that he says that, because there's tradition. He said he still has more to give to us. Like Nicole was saying, all Protestants used to be Catholic until they started to want to form their own faith. People back in the day would pray the rosary. They all believed how wonderful Mary was. And if it was so wrong, I feel like God would have intervened a lot sooner than Martin Luther. I feel like that pleased him, that we were all children of God and we were all together worshiping God through the Mass, having Mary, all the saints, all these things. Like, they were all so good, and they were there for us to get closer to him. So pray the rosary. Don't be afraid. If you're not Catholic, you can still pray the rosary. I get people who ask me all the time. Yes, Mary is your mother too, and she loves you so much. Like, she is so not judgmental. She loves us so purely, and just can't wait for us to be with her son. My family, we started praying the family rosary. That was huge for our family, because even if my kids aren't necessarily paying attention, or they're kind of off in la la land sometimes, I think it is so important to teach our children how to pray the rosary, because it is such a powerful weapon against Satan. So if they know how to pray the rosary when they go off to college and veer in the wrong direction, hopefully they will know how to get back to God. Do you remember when ISIS had killed the journalists? One of the journalists they captured was Catholic. And they said he would nonstop pray the rosary when he was in captivity. That struck me to the core, because you might not get to receive the Eucharist, but you have Mother Mary wrapped around you. He had Mother Mary there with him at his deathbed. And I think that that is so powerful. And for me, my kids were still super little when that happened, but I'm like, I want my children to know how to pray the rosary. So if they're ever in the enemy's hands, or they're in trouble, they did something really dumb and they're in jail somewhere or whatever it is, they know who to turn to, and that's Mother Mary, and of course Jesus. But they will get closer to Jesus through the rosary. So I think praying the rosary, I mean, we could do videos on the rosary, because it's so powerful and beautiful. I struggle paying attention all the time, but it's just like one of those, you just veer back to, okay, I'm trying to get back on the horse and focus on the mystery of the rosary and all of that. There are a lot of different apparitions as well. Nicole and I were talking about this before, how Mary has appeared throughout history to so many different people. And it is amazing, the different miracles that have happened and her messages. And then there's Our Lady of Knock, where she's in Ireland and she said nothing. So I think she's allowed through history to come to us at different times and talk to us through different apparition sites. I know me and Nicole both have been to several of them. Nicole, do you want to talk about the different shrines that you've been to?
Sure. I just want to say one thing too about the rosary. We're meditating on the life of Jesus. Each mystery that we pray every decade is dedicated to a part of the life of Christ. It's like holding your hand meditating. So while you're praying the Hail Mary, and people are like, well, repetitive prayer is not good. You'd never say that to your husband. Don't say I love you too much. Please stop. It's just too much. It's like repeating I love you. That's what we're doing to Jesus with his mother. She shows us a different part of who he is. We're asking her to show us the heart of her son. For example, the first sorrowful mystery is the agony in the garden. So while you're praying Hail Mary, full of grace, you're picturing him sweating blood the night before he died and meditating on that, asking God, if it's your will, let this cup pass me by, and just what he suffered, knowing what he was going to endure. So we're watching his story through the eyes of his mother, and it helps us draw close. She will help us see what she saw so that we are connected and fall more in love with him, not her. And it's sort of like if Jesus is a sun, Mary is the moon. She reflects the light. She is not the light, but she reflects the light. Be not afraid of her. She's not replacing Jesus. She is bringing us closer if you let her. Padre Pio called the Rosary the weapon, because when you meditate on Jesus, you're getting closer to him with his mother. It is a way to protect yourself. I just want to say that you can look up the history of the Rosary and where it came from. And it has to do with the Psalms, praying the Psalms. They used to use beads, and they use the beads now for Hail Marys. So you can research, go to Catholic Answers. We don't have time to go into all the details. There's so much information out there. We'll probably do something on the Rosary, but just do some research and go to Catholic websites, because a lot of people think they know, and they'll say terrible things about what we believe, but it's actually not true. So if you actually want to know what we believe, go to Catholic reputable sites. As far as apparitions, God has really blessed me, because I was in ministry and I didn't make a lot of money for most of my life, but I've had these opportunities. I went to World Youth Day in 2000 in Rome, where Pope John Paul II was there. We went through different areas, and I went to Lourdes in France, and it's a place where Mary appeared to this young girl named Bernadette, and who's now a saint, Saint Bernadette Subaru. And Mary had repeatedly came to see her and didn't know who she was at first. And the priest said, ask her who she is. They didn't believe her. She said, I am the Immaculate Conception. This is a little girl who couldn't read and never heard of what that is. She went back and said, she's the Immaculate Conception. Then they finally believed her, because there were some miracles happening. People were following her. No one believed her. Her family didn't believe her. After she said, this is the Immaculate Conception, and she told that to this bishop, because Mary was asking for this church to be built and that there'd be lots of miracles there. They did. At one point, they thought she was kind of crazy, Bernadette, because Mary had asked her to dig in the ground. And so she was digging, and people were like, what is this girl doing? And then the spring of water came forth, which is still running today. And there has been so many miracles. So there's all these baths. So when I was there, and I've got to go twice, wait in line, and there's people who've had healings of cancer, of terminal illnesses, of blindness, of paralysis, couldn't walk, and they were healed. But a lot of times people go, and for me, I didn't have any big miraculous healing. When you go into the water, they sort of put you back into this healing water. When they come up, everyone has said this, I didn't believe it, but you are not cold and you dry almost instantaneously. It is incredible. I specifically prayed for inner healing of some of my wounds, was my prayer. And that's one of the most popular apparition sites in the world, is Lourdes in France. So I got to do that. It was beautiful. The next one would be Fatima, which is in Portugal. Do you want to share a little bit about Fatima, and then I'll kind of share my experience after?
Sure. First, Lourdes, I want to say, for the Immaculate Conception, at that time in history, they were talking about Mary being the Immaculate Conception at Rome. So the Pope was talking about that. Like, how did she know we were talking about that in Rome? I think it was pretty private. For Lourdes, it's gorgeous. It looks like a castle. It's so big and beautiful. I did not get to go in the water. And I had a lot of spiritual warfare for that. She was my confirmation saint. There's a movie called The Song of Bernadette, and it's black and white. The actress who plays Bernadette is amazing. She got a bunch of Oscars, and they all did. It's so good. I highly recommend The Song of Bernadette. So that's her story. And then Fatima, Three Kids of Fatima, Mary appeared to these three little children in Fatima. They were all shepherds. They were all watching the sheep, and they were praying the short version of the Rosary. I've heard there's a kids' rosary, and they were doing that.
Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
And so Mary appeared. Actually, wasn't it an angel first?
Yeah.
I think there was an angel that appeared first. Lucia, Jacinta, and Francesco. Francesco could not hear what they were saying. And so they said Oh, and there's so much, but they asked Mary. So when Mary did appear, they asked if they would get to heaven. And she said, "You will, but Francesco, you need to pray lots of rosaries to get to heaven." And this is like a little boy. And I'm sure he was like a pretty innocent boy, but the power of the rosary too tells you how powerful that is and how such a great prayer it is that will bring us closer to God. Mary appeared to these three children and every month for, was it 6 months or 7 months?
It was on the 13th till October.
And so on the last one, Mary said that she would give them a miracle because people were like, they don't believe you, Mother Mary. And so she's like, I will give them a miracle. There were like 70,000 people who came to see this miracle. A lot of them don't believe in God. A lot of them did. She appears to them. It's raining the entire day, lots of rain, mud everywhere. And the audience was like, where's the miracle? And so all the clouds part and the sun starts to fall towards them. Everybody scatters, fearing they're going to die because the sun is about to fall on them. Then the sun goes back up, and everybody was completely dry, as if nothing had happened. People who couldn't walk could walk now, and different things like that. And so thousands of people all saw the same thing. And that is, Mary revealed quite a few things to the three kids of Fatima. A lot of it had to do with the war at the time, which was World War One. For the war to end, what needs to happen, and there's going to be a greater war if people don't turn their life around, which World War II happened. So it was a warning. A lot of the time Mary appears is like a warning, like something big is going to happen if you don't turn your life around. So that's Fatima. I had a good experience there, except I was with my ex-fiance, so it's kind of weird to talk about. But it was pretty neat being there, all the different places. She appeared in different spots, which kind of surprised me. I thought they were all going to be at the same place. God pretty much told me at that spot that the guy I was traveling with, who I was engaged to, he was not my husband. So it was a little awkward, a little strange, but that's a whole nother video.
Thank you, Heather. That's really good. I have to say, between Lourdes and Fatima, the one thing I noticed, it doesn't take away from what happened there, but in Fatima, it's not as commercialized yet. It didn't have all the shops and people selling stuff. So I just found that it was quieter. I could really enter in. And every night in Lourdes and in Fatima, there's like thousands of people who have candles, and we pray the rosary in procession. The other thing Mary did was she showed heaven, hell, and purgatory to the three children. You think, oh my gosh, why would you show that to a 7-year-old? They can handle it, but they're horrified. So from that time on, they all decided that they would make great sacrifices because they didn't want anyone to suffer hell. So these little kids started fasting, and to the point where Mary had to say, you can ease up on some of your penances, like to offer things up for others, because she showed people falling into hell like snowflakes. And it was horrifying for the kids to see that. But heaven and hell are real. We have to take our spiritual life so seriously, that our lives, we don't know the time or the hour, and we're meant to live a holy life for God. Hell does exist, and no one should ever go there. The goal, like, is our souls.
Satan doesn't want you to know that hell exists, because that's, he wants you to think that everything's hunky-dory, and why care about that, because then you will be his. So you want to be careful that there is no hell, because that's how they get you. That's how an enemy will be captured, is if they don't think they're in danger. Did you have any big experience for Our Lady of Guadalupe?
That's in Mexico, for those of you who don't know. No, I didn't. It's the most visited shrine in the world. There's 20 million people that go every year to Mexico. So when that was going on, when Mary appeared, that there was the Aztecs, and they were sacrificing children, like throwing them over cliffs for the gods. And so Mary appeared to a saint. He's now a saint, Juan Diego. And there's a lot, like, again, we won't get into all the details of the story because they're so long, but we will probably come back at some point and talk about it. And you can look at them online, the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. She ended up asking Juan Diego to ask the bishop to build a church there. And the bishop thought that Juan Diego was a little nuts. Granted, there are some people with mental health issues that sometimes say those kind of things. So you do have to discern, is this true? You can't believe everyone that says those kind of things. But he said, if that's true, ask Mary to give you these roses that only grow in a certain time of year, and they're not growing right now. So sure enough, Juan Diego told that to Mary. There were the flowers. He put them in his tilma, which is like a robe called the tilma. He carried them there. So he met with the bishop and said, okay, you asked for these flowers. Here they are. And it wasn't even the flowers that were the biggest miracle. When he opened his tilma, all the roses fell out. But as the roses fell out, Mary was appearing on the tilma. And that potato sack should have disintegrated within 10 years. It has been over 500 years, and scientists have studied this. They can explain that the actual image of Mary is not like paint into the fabric. It sits basically on top of the fabric. There's colors they have never seen. If you look in the eye, there's no way, especially 500 years ago, that you could paint in the human eye pictures of the life of Christ. In her eye, she's standing in front of the sun, which represents that they were worshiping. She was pregnant at the time, because women would wear this certain thing around their wrist to show that they were pregnant, and she had that. So Jesus was within her womb. Mary appeared pregnant, and she was standing in front of the sun. It was in a time where, like I say, they were sacrificing people. 9 million people came Christians into the Catholic Church after that apparition. 9 million. 9 million plus. It's hard to know the exact number. And Mexico is one of the biggest Catholic countries in the world. She is also the icon for the pro-life movement, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So she means a lot to me. And I do have one of the image on a canvas here at my house. She, again, just brings us closer to Christ. But that was powerful. What about you? How was your experience there?
Yeah, I actually went with Holly. Do you remember Holly from camp?
Yes.
They went, and I was dying to go somewhere. So we went, and it was amazing. We went in, and I instantly just bawled. I was just like, God painted that. Like, that was like, hello. Like, it struck me so much that God had painted that. And that's what they saw all those years ago. And it's still here. And we had a guide show us around all the different miracles. They had this huge standing crucifix. Some people tried to blow up the tilma. And so this crucifix, you can still see it. It's like bent. And so they show you, but like the tilma, nothing happened to it. And the bomb was like very close to the tilma. So it's pretty much indestructible. And so it was so neat to be there and to experience that. It did bring me to a deeper conversion when I went to that one. Out of all of them, that was for me a deeper conversion moment where I was just like, God really touched my heart with Mother Mary. And there's other apparitions too that have happened, like Medjugorje and Our Lady of Knock. They're fascinating. They're amazing. There's so many miracles trying to teach us and help us get closer to her son. And honestly, warn us. There's Our Lady of Cabejo, which is amazing. Have you ever read that book? With the maculae? It is so good. That book I read. I actually like 2 chapters away from the end, I didn't want to finish it because I knew what was going to happen. I read the other story first, and I was like, I know it's going to end. I don't want it to end. So it took me like 4 years to read the last 2 chapters, but so good. And it was Our Lady appeared to the people to let them know that there's going to be a great genocide if they did not pray. And the genocide happened. It was terrible, just horrible. Usually it's a warning. Mary's there to warn us, as if I would warn my children too. If there was danger coming, I would definitely try to get a hold of my children and warn them because I love them so much and I want them to not have that danger. So anyway, and I've heard that there's actually a lot of different things that people have turned it around. Prayers do work, and there are things that people have experienced where, it didn't happen, and that's because the prayer was answered. So I think that that's pretty amazing too. You probably don't hear those stories as much because they didn't happen, the prayers happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's fascinating to me.
I hope that people will go and kind of look deeper into these apparitions. I know for me, they've only brought me closer to Jesus. There's a story that I wanted to quickly share about the intercession of Mary. You can look this up on YouTube. It's a priest named Father Stephen Shire. His story is incredible. He was a priest for himself, and he'll share this if you listen to his story. So he was a very selfish priest, didn't do his prayers, didn't really help people, was just want to do what he wanted to do. And yeah, I didn't have a prayer life. when he was at a meeting on his way home. He was in a car accident, a head-on collision with another vehicle. He was flown through the windshield and was basically garbling his blood on the side of the road. And this Episcopalian woman saw that he was a Catholic priest. He had his collar on. He was dying on the side of the road. And she started to say, "Oh gosh, you're Catholic. Like, Hail Mary, full of grace." And he tried to pray the Hail Mary with her. During that time, and again, these are private revelations. You don't have to believe this, but he said he had this experience where he saw himself outside of his body and was watching himself there. And instantly he was in another place. And he said that he didn't see anyone, but he heard the voice. And he said that was Jesus going through his life. And he said, "I always thought when I was, had my final judgment, I'd be able to explain why I did these things and why I sinned. But the Lord went through my life, the good and the bad." But he would say, "And you did this." And he'd say, "You're right." He said, "You can't lie or fudge the truth in front of the Lord." So he's like, "You were a priest for yourself." And he's like, "Yes, I was." He knew immediately that his soul was going to go to hell. The Lord said, "This is what you've chosen for yourself." And he said, "I know. And the punishment is eternal loss of heaven." And he said, "I know." And he knew. I couldn't argue because I knew the state of my soul. But he said, all of a sudden, he hears this female voice say, "My son, what if we give him more graces? What if we give him another chance?" And Jesus, being fully justice and fully merciful, said, "But mother, he was a priest for himself." And she continued, she just pleaded and said, "If we give him another chance, we'll give him lots of graces." And he said, "Mother, he's yours." He lived. He didn't remember that when he first woke up. He had the whole halo thing on his neck, and it took him several months, like the rehabilitation in the hospital. He said his very first mass back, he was reading the gospel. And all of a sudden, he had no memory of that experience until he was reading the gospel and the words were coming off the page. And
Wow.
he said it was all of a sudden he remembered that Mary basically saved his soul because Jesus will refuse her nothing. He could barely get through the rest of the mass because this experience came back to him. His completely changed his priesthood. He now loves Our Lady, has become a priest for the people, and has spent the rest of his life getting to know Our Lady and praying the Rosary to bring you closer to Jesus. And what an incredible intercessor. He'll forever be grateful to her because he had a second chance to save his soul and to make
Wow.
different choices as a priest. So I just thought, wow, like she is such a good mom. And who doesn't need a mom?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard somebody say as a joke, but they're like, there are people at the pearly gates and St. Peter is like, "No, you can't go in." And she'd be like, "Come in here," going to the side room. She's like, "I'll help you over here." But trying to sneak him in. So I'm like, that's truth on earth. She's trying to get us to her son because she loves us so much and she just wants us to be with her and her son. We are her children. So of course she wants us to be with her.
That is so her. I want to recommend that if you have questions or struggles with Mary, go to Catholic Answers and look around to find out the truth of who she is. Ask her to reveal herself to you, and she will. It may not be instantaneous, but she will show you. Maybe just start with a decade of the Rosary. If you find it too overwhelming to pray the whole Rosary at once, if you're just getting into learning about Mary and opening the door to Mary, maybe just pray an Our Father, 10 Hail Marys, and a Glory Be, and then work your way up to the full Rosary, which is the 5 decades. And then eventually you could pray. There's 4 different mysteries of the Rosary where you meditate on different parts of the life of Christ. So I just want to encourage you to be not afraid of her and that you can't ever love her more than Jesus. So we're called to imitate him, and he loves his mom and she loves us. And like Heather said several times, she is a gift to us and we're called to love her and honor her, but we do not worship her. I hope that that's been helpful for you to learn more about her and the truth of what we believe and why we believe it. Anything else you want to add, Heather?
I don't think so. I think we'll probably get into our more personal things that have happened to us with Mary, like down the road, because I know we both have had our own journey towards Mother Mary. And that's something I definitely want to share just because I think those stories are so neat to hear and to hear what people have experienced. I think it is helpful. So we'll probably do that in a part 2 at some point, maybe next week. But I think that's good for today. How
Sure.
about you?
So do you want
Okay.
to share your favorite thing of the week? Or
Yes. Speaking of apparitions, I wanted to share with you. It is called The World of Marian Apparitions. And so it is really awesome. It's full of pictures and just so many different apparitions. The ones that we shared are just a few, probably the most well-known ones, that the ones that we've shared. So there's some all over the world that Mary is trying to spread the message of God, get us, her children, to heaven, to her son. So this is definitely one of my favorite things. My mother-in-law got it for me. It's so thick and beautiful and big. I love it. It's a good coffee table book to
Yeah.
have.
Oh, it's beautiful. It makes me want to get it myself. The art in the pictures is very well done.
Yes.
My one thing, and this is going to be a shout out to my godson, Clancy McDonald. He sent me in the mail for my birthday, which was in February. He made me a coffee. He knows I love coffee. So he sent me this little happy birthday card. He drew me a Starbucks coffee. I thought I'd also mention because he said he's going to be famous one day, and I have a signature right here. So I wanted to give my little godson, Clancy, a shout out. And I really appreciate there's something so special about getting a handwritten card. It's kind of a lost art, but it's so meaningful. So just a little encouragement to and to myself that maybe, you know what, I need to start sending out cards again, or even just making some cards. It's so
Yeah.
nice, better than an email to get something.
Yes.
So that's my one thing for the week.
Oh, that is really sweet. Love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And until next time, we'll see you all later. God bless.
Bless.
Bye.